Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here and welcome back to the railway. Today I'm looking at some new vans by Dapol. I say today's models are new, but they've actually been around for years and years. I've even reviewed some of them in the form of these, the infamous Dapol egg vans. And despite these being really good value models, my advice was always to just avoid them at all costs because they just didn't work right. They would derail, they wouldn't couple properly, they would uncouple at random, they were just not worth the time faffing around with them. And the root of these problems was down to two major issues. The first one, the wheels. So the flanges on these wheels are super fine scale, which in itself is not a major issue, but when coupled with the fact that the wheels would wobble and oscillate all over the place, yeah, we got those derailments. The other major issue was the couplings. You can probably see looking at this wagon. The couplings are drooping downwards, they don't spring back to the centre properly. The coupling hooks are also all over the place, and as you can see, one of these hooks has dropped out, and that's very typical of these. In fact, every few months I have to go on a Dapol coupling hook search and rescue mission where I try and find all the hooks and put them back on my Dapol models. An absolute nightmare. But recently Dapol released some new versions of these models, and here they are now. And it sounds as though Dapol have made some major changes to these. So they are no longer made in China, these are made in the UK now, which is pretty interesting. They've also redesigned the wheels, as far as I can tell. They've got their own sort of machine over here in the UK that makes wheels now. And they've also redesigned the couplings. So I'm not really buying these to look at the detail and such, although we will look at that because, as you can see, they have been painted in a sort of new manner. So I'm interested to see what that's like. But mainly I want to get these onto the track. I want to see if these wheels are better now. Hopefully they're not going to be wobbling all over the place and causing derailments. I want to try those couplings to make sure they're working properly. I want to know if these really affordable wagons are actually now worth buying. And affordable is certainly the word. The RRP for these is £13. Yes, you heard that right, £13. That is sort of way less than half the price of a typical new tooled van. And yeah, the level of detail does reflect that, but if you just want something to run that looks and runs hopefully well, then yeah, you can't go wrong at that price. And that's the RRP. At the retailers, TMC for instance, these cost as little as £11.05. Now I bought mine from TMC, but I think they did me a bit of a mischief because I was charged £12.60 each for these, which is more than the weathered versions of these cost. So I don't know what happened there, but either way, it's significantly cheaper than other rolling stock. So enough waffle, let's see what these are like. And you'll notice that the three wagons I have here have a chocolate theme, and that's kind of one of the things that Dapol have done with the latest batches of these wagons. They've got some really quite intricate liveries. I know they've got a range of these in kind of brewery liveries, so they've gotten really creative, and the liveries on these wagons never used to be this complex, so that's a major upgrade, and later I'll talk a little bit about how this is done. But I guess we should start by taking a look at some of these. So we'll go with my least favourite chocolate in real life, but far from my least favourite wagon by the looks of it. This is the Bourneville version. Let me show you the end of the box. So the product code for this is 4F-012-045. It is the Bourneville wagon number 1 and it's VB4, which maybe that stands for Van Body 4, because they've all got the same body and they all say that. So anyway, let's open this up and let's see what this is like. I can already see that the coupling hooks are still fitted to this model, so that's possibly a good sign. All right, let's open this up. So here it is. It's got a great finish to it, as you can see, and yet we've got the Bourneville printing on the side, and this is done with a UV printer, which explains how it's possible for Dapol to produce these liveries on such cheap models. So they're not tampo printed, so each colour is not applied separately. This goes under a machine which prints everything in one go, which obviously makes it much cheaper, and the quality suffers a little bit. UV printing doesn't look quite as good as tampo printing up close, but it is low cost, and I think for models like this, that makes a lot of sense. But the wheels, let's give these a spin. All right. So yeah, we've still got a bit of wobbling there actually. Can you see that? A little bit of oscillation on that axle, but it certainly doesn't look too bad. And then the coupling design, well, you can see this is completely different. If I pull in one of the egg vans, yeah, you can see this looks way, way better. So they're in proper NEM pockets now, which is good. And they spring back to the center far better than they used to. So I would say the wheels, still a bit of a question mark. The couplings though, yeah, they look much, much better. Okay, Bourneville, very nice. Let's move on and look at the next one then, which is a slightly more elaborate design. So this is kind of a vintage Cadbury's design by the looks of it. I like that. Let me show you the end of the box. So the product code for this one is 4F-012-043. It is in the Cadbury's chocolate livery, which is purple, very interesting. Number 1, and again, it's van body 4. So yeah, possibly, is this my first purple van? It might be. Right, let's pop this out, have a little look at the livery, and let's also spin those wheels. I want to see if they're all kind of a bit wobbly, or whether that Bourneville one was a one-off. Okay, so there's a closer look at this. Yeah, this one looks pretty good. Again, you can tell that this isn't tampo printed, but for £11, this kind of complexity in the livery is wonderful, really. Okay, underneath, same kind of couplings. Let's have a look at the wheels. Yeah, they're not as bad. Yeah, they're not as bad. Okay, well, I think this at least stands a good chance of running properly. So we will see, we will see. Okay, and then the last one, I think this is maybe my favourite one of these, in the Fries Chocolate and Cream livery. And I believe Fries is also a Cadbury's company. I'm pretty sure Cadbury's bought Fries many years ago. I could be wrong. Pretty sure there's a connection though. Anyway, end of the box. So if you're interested in this one, it's 4F-012-047, Fries Chocolate Cream, number 1, van body 4. And if you're interested in any of these wagons, I will pop affiliate links in the description. Okay, let's pull this one out, do a little test on this. I just think this colour is the most sensible and convincing. I think the purple one, you have to kind of suspend your disbelief a little bit with that, but this one, yeah, this seems a lot more feasible. So there you have it, Fries Chocolate and Cream in a lovely cream colour. And wheels, ooh yeah, that one's wobbly. Ooh yeah, they're pretty wobbly. That's disappointing. I would have thought the wheel issue would really have been solved. Whether they're so wobbly that this is going to derail, I'm not convinced. That's probably not the case. But yeah, there's certainly some oscillation there. But yeah, there we have it. 3 wagons. We will have a close look at the liveries just to kind of show you those close up. But then, of course, we'll get them down onto the track and we'll give them a test. Okay, so there it is, the Fries Chocolate and Cream van, up close and personal for you. And in terms of detail, this is quite a basic model, as you'd fully expect for around £11. So the body is quite basic in terms of separate parts. The lamp brackets, for instance, those are just a part of the moulding, and the brake rigging and such is just moulded in as part of the chassis. Now, obviously, if you want to spend £30 for a single van, yeah, you can get the latest Bachmann model, which does have things like this separately fitted. But if you're looking to build up a rake of a decent number of vans, then paying £600 for about 20 vans, regardless of the level of detail, doesn't seem that appetizing. With these models, you can get sort of 20 of these for less than 250. That's a lot more like it. And yes, the brake rigging is not separately fitted, but it does look good. The fact that this brake rod here is not separately fitted is kind of hard to tell from the side like this. It looks fine. The axle boxes, yeah, they're not the most complex in the world, but again, I think they look fine. And the real plus with these wagons is the quality of the moulding on the body. And this is the thing that really sets these Dapol models apart from, let's say, the Hornby Railroad wagons. The body moulding looks good. And this is the thing with wagons, really. Once they're designed and tooled, the quality of the moulding can be as high as you like, and it doesn't cost any extra to reproduce it. So it's really good to see Dapol taking advantage of that. Yeah, the planking, the riveting, the vents, it all looks absolutely great. The buffer beams are fairly basic. The hooks here are just a part of the moulding and they don't look that great. And of course there are no couplings provided to put on those hooks. The buffers, on the other hand, look fantastic, and the buffers themselves are actually separately fitted and made of metal, and that's quite a surprise, I think, for a model of this price, and as a result the finish on those buffers looks absolutely excellent. Here's a close look at the UV printing on the side then. Now personally I have a kind of love-hate relationship with UV printing. On the one hand, I really don't like the way it looks up close. It's just not as good as tampo printing. However, it does make it possible for models to be decorated really, really cheaply. So I think it works great for budget models. Not a big fan of seeing it on more expensive models. Having said that, with the running number down here, that almost looks as good as a tampo print because it's so simple. The more complex printing, which I guess is tempting to do with a UV printer, doesn't look that great. Yeah, it looks kind of messy, a little bit furry around the edges, not the sharpest, but for £11 it's absolutely fine. Here's a look at the Cadbury's chocolate livery. The same is true really, doesn't look that great up close in terms of decoration, but for the money, what are you gonna do? And then of course there is the Bourneville one. I think this possibly looks the best in terms of the quality because the printing here is a little bit simpler, so you haven't got that sort of furriness between the different colours and such. But you know what, I've got just over £30 worth of wagon here. For the money you really can't go wrong if they work properly. So that's what we need to look at next. Are these actually functional now? Okay, so here is today's test setup. This is the train, and I've tried to make as much of it as possible Dapol. So I've gone with the B4 jersey in the green. Obviously, I've got the 3 wagons, which I've not coupled up yet. I'm going to do that on camera. And then just a random LNER brake van at the back. That's just my OCD for you. So first things first, let's talk about the weight of the wagons. They come in at 35 grams each, which is just a touch heavier than the egg vans used to be, but only a touch by about 1 or 2 grams. And it's actually only a few grams lighter than, let's say, a 30-pound Bachmann van, so the weight is absolutely fine. Free rolling is not a problem at all. All 3 wagons rolled consistently down Gordon's Hill, and all of them stopped in about the same place just after the first curve there, which I think for a sort of small piece of rolling stock is absolutely fine. Obviously no proper bearings or anything on the axles, these are budget models, but that hasn't affected them negatively, I would say, in terms of free rolling. Okay, couplings then. Now, if these were the egg vans, I would push back and try to couple, and more than half of them, I estimate, would not couple for one reason or another. So let's see if this is any better. If we get all of them coupled correctly, I'll be a very, very happy chappy. So here we go, into reverse. Let's try and do this reasonably steadily. Right. Oh, yes, okay. Happy chappy ahoy. Oh, that's great. Oh, B4 struggling a bit. Come on now, wake up. Yeah, that loco's not run for a while. It's not happy at all. Come on, don't spoil the review, for goodness sake. You're not supposed to be the focus here. I guess we might need to swap this engine with something that's a bit more reliable. Well, that's not very good, is it? Okay, well, probably needs its wheels or pickups cleaning, so bear with me. Okay, the Hornby Peckett shouldn't let us down. Here's where it does immediately. But no, the point is, the couplings worked perfectly. How refreshingly different was that from the egg vans? Yep, look at that, all of them coupled. Now, I don't know if you can notice, fair bit of wobbling there from the cream one, the Fry's one. You see it wobbling there as it goes past? Yeah, that's quite noticeable. So we've still got the oscillating in the wheels, which is a little bit frustrating. I mean, they are cheap budget wagons. It's not like they cost a fortune or anything, but again, if they could just crack that wobbliness, shouldn't really cost them any more to produce, should it? So yeah, that's unfortunate, but do they stay on the track? That's the most important question. So let's send the Peckett off around the track and let's observe the performance. Here we go. Okay, so fingers crossed, no derailing or uncoupling on the curves. Let's see. Second radius coming up. Ah, looking good so far. Heading up to the top of Gordon's Hill. Still staying on. Alright, so looks like Dapol have cracked it. We've still got some wobbling to the wheels, and I think the wobbling is quite noticeable. as the wagons run along, so that is a slight issue, but it's a damn sight better than the things constantly derailing, which was true of the egg vans. So that has totally transformed these wagons, and I think Dapol are doing this to some of their other rolling stock as well. And in doing so, they've taken wagons that I just could not recommend because they didn't work right and made them functional. And that's a massive game changer because these are so cheap and affordable that now people can put them into service on their layout and know that they're not going to cause problems. Those couplings are such an improvement. Perfect coupling on the first try, that is absolutely awesome. Now, I know I'm celebrating what should be the bare minimum here, but it was always so disappointing to me that these so incredibly cheap wagons were just unusable, that to see them working perfectly now is such a refreshing change. So that is awesome. Let's put them over the points though, and just check that they are going to handle those okay. Okay, here we go, it's the big test. Let's back them over the dodgy points. Now, if they can do this, they should be okay for you, assuming you don't get any more wobbly examples than mine are. But anyway, opening up the point, let's back it over, not too quick, but not too slow. Oh man, yes. No issues with the couplings, they're all at the same height, they're not lolling, so they're not interfering with each other and causing derailments. The Peckett may have stalled, but the wagons are still on the track. Let's go fast. Really put them through their paces here. Look at that, they don't care. So, they're rock solid, how awesome. So, performance, a pass. Let's have some ratings. Now, as much as I do like these, the best I can give it on detail is a 2-star, which is absolutely fair enough. Unless there's something the matter with you, you're not going to be buying an £11 van and expecting it to be as detailed as a £30 van. I think for what you get here, it's absolutely fine. So the moulded detail on the models looks excellent, and they're reasonably well presented, even having metal buffers. However, they do rely very heavily on moulded detail, the brake rigging and such is all just a part of the moulding, and the decoration is UV printed, which doesn't look as good as tampo printing. Performance though is an easy 4-star. They are great, the couplings work well, they stay on the track now, all of this is fantastic. There is just a little bit of a wobble in some of the vans because the wheels do tend to oscillate a little bit, so not perfect on performance. Otherwise though, they're great, nice and free rolling, handle points fine, really good. The quality similarly is a 4-star for me. Generally they are not bad at all, well put together, nothing dropping off them, the coupling hooks stay in place, but they are made of plastic just with a weight on top of the chassis. The wheels are a little bit wobbly and the paint jobs are not that clean, so it doesn't get 5-star, but again, for £11, what are you going to say? Value for money then, £13 as an RRP or £11.05 at the retailers, plus a little bit more if you want to get a weathered version of these. Dapol are doing that. I mean, that is fantastic value. That is less than half the price of your typical new tooled van on the market, which is just fantastic value. So an easy 5-star, not the greatest model in the world, but priced accordingly too. So overall then, that is 7.19 out of 10, or a grade of D, which does seem a little bit harsh. It is obviously dragged down quite a bit by the detail mark, but there's nothing wrong with them for the price. They are slightly outdated, they are pretty basic, but they're also affordable and now functional. So into the logbook they go, and second place, that's quite a surprise. I think I need to find some better rolling stock. But yeah, they do what they say on the tin and they don't cost a fortune, so that's why they're ranking pretty well. I think I would recommend these. So there you have it then folks, what a good result that was. Very basic rolling stock, and if you like your detail and your accuracy and your features, yeah, these are not going to be for you. But if, like me, you're just looking to build up a rake of decent looking rolling stock that just works and you don't want to break the bank, these are great, and they're nice and modern. They've got modern NEM couplings, of course, metal wheels, modern decoration, lots of variety. Yeah, you just can't go wrong. So well done Dapol, well worth doing, I think. Yeah, an extremely worthy upgrade, and if you're interested in picking any of these new Dapol wagons up, check the link in the description. I've got some affiliate links there for you. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Alright, cheers folks, you take care.